All right, come on in and settle down. We're going to go ahead and get started with our program for this afternoon. We're so glad you're all here. And I'd like to call up front, first of all, co-directors of this program. I'm Jennifer Glass, the director of the program. I have two amazing co-directors. So come on up, and I'd like you to applaud for Dr. Linda. This is Dr. Linda Green, who's our experiential learning director. And this is Dr. Samantha Wilson, who's our curriculum director. So we've had really fun times this summer putting together this program for you. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. We hope you feel inspired. We hope you meet people today, and hope you learn more about this program and then tell all your friends. And we know some of you are already our majors, so we're so happy to have you here. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the program, and then we're going to hear from some of our Georgia Tech leadership, and then we're going to hear from the keynote speaker. So our new program is our new Bachelor's in Science degree in Environmental Science. It's going to provide core content in math, physics, chemistry, biology, earth science, and environmental policy. But what really makes this unique is that we're going to have flexible electives at the upper level in coursework. So we're going to allow you to customize your program of study to your interests, to your career goals, allow you to go study abroad, allow you to do internships and all these things to really get real life experience in environmental science. And we're going to prepare you to be future leaders in industry, in academia, education, and communication, and much more, because we know you're going to create the innovative solutions to the most significant environmental challenges of our time. So without further ado, I'd like all of our majors to stand up, and I'd like to give a big round of applause to our majors. Thank you and welcome. Welcome. This is our inaugural class of environmental science, or ENVS majors, and we're really, really happy you're here. We're so excited to go on this journey with you, and welcome. I'd also like to thank the steering committee who created this environmental science program. These four faculty worked really hard over the last few years to put all this together, to put this curriculum together. So Jean Lynch-Stieglitz, Jennifer Levy, Samantha Wilson, and Brian Hammer. Let's give all of them a round of applause. And if you're here, please stand up to be applauded. I'd also like to thank many thanks to many people, all of these on the screen, and many are here today, because all of these people really helped make this program happen. So round of applause to everyone here who helped make this happen and make this event happen today. Thank you so much. And thanks also to all of the faculty for their enthusiasm to be part of the program and their willingness to step up and teach the necessary classes. So without further ado, I would like to introduce President Angel Cabrera. He is the 12th president of Georgia Tech, with the mission to develop leaders who advance technology and improve the human condition. President Cabrera came to Georgia Tech in 2019 after 7 years as president of George Mason University in Virginia. And he is a Georgia Tech alum. He earned his master's and PhD as a Fulbright scholar at Tech. He is also the first native of Spain to serve as president of an American university. And he's been named Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum, Henry Crown Fellow by the Aspen Institute, and Great Immigrant by the Carnegie Corporation. And he is co-founder of the University Global Coalition, a global network of universities that works with the United Nations in support of its sustainability program. So please give a warm welcome to our Georgia Tech president, Cabrera.
Thank you, Jennifer, and congratulations to you, to the faculty and the staff who worked so hard to put this program together, to Dean Lozier. She's the biggest advocate for the college and for the greater cause of sustainability, and not just understanding how our planet, our only planet, works, but to make sure everybody knows it. So congratulations. And very importantly, huge thanks and congratulations to the pioneers, the very first students to sign on this journey. This is fantastic. I'm so excited about this. So, of course, we all know how we got here, but it's worth reminding ourselves that it was thanks in great part to the technologies in the advances coming out of places like Georgia Tech, things that can be broadly described as the Industrial Revolution, that we find ourselves where we are. Now, the outcomes of the Industrial Revolution have been phenomenal in many ways. And I always need to remind ourselves that because of the inventions, from the steam engine and the electric motor and all the machines that we have created, we now live longer than ever before. We die less of violence and other causes. We have better medical care than ever before. There is less poverty in the world than ever before. All that is wonderful, except that we now have learned that because it's so many of us, now surpassing 8 billion people and going on to 10 in the next couple of decades, that train has left the station. And because of the huge pressure we're putting on the resources available on our planet, oops, we're kind of going to ruin the party. And something needs to be done about it. So it's only fair that places like Georgia Tech, that has contributed so much to advancing, to creating new technologies, new machines, new devices, new science that helps all of us live better lives, that we now take very seriously what is it that needs to be done so that we can take care of the only one planet that we inhabit. And the goal is not to just kind of go back in time and somehow idealize a life that was not a lot of fun. I mean, our life expectancy in just 200 years have gone from a little over 30 years to now we can expect to live 70, 80 years all over the place. The question is, how do we take care of the only planet we inhabit while making sure not just we in the rich world, everybody on this planet has a shot at a decent life? That's a pretty awesome goal to try to achieve. It's one of the biggest challenges that we all face. It's a hugely complicated challenge. It's what we call the wicked problem. In fact, if you try to define a wicked problem, it doesn't get any more wicked than this one. It is global. It affects different people differently. It's complex and is not linear. It affects different systems. It requires many different disciplines to understand it. It's a pretty darn complex problem that we face. How do we take care of the planet we inhabit while helping more and more people have a shot at living a good life? And yet I'm hopeful. And even on a day like today, we're baking. It's end of August and we're baking outside as a very nice reminder. I am hopeful that we can find solutions through this. And what makes me hopeful is the people right now in front of me. I mean, we're bringing in unbelievable faculty and scientists. We're bringing in incredibly talented students who are inspired by this, who want to make a difference. And we're bringing you to an environment, to a school like Georgia Tech, that is always dedicated not just to understand the world, but to make a difference in it. You heard the mission statement of Georgia Tech, to develop leaders who advance technology and improve the human condition. And as the dean describes this program, she will always say, this is not just about understanding the science from all the different angles that help us understand how our planet works and how the different systems interact. It's about finding solutions. It's about giving you the tools. It's about inspiring you to find solutions. Some of those solutions may take a form of new policies, and therefore the connection with the Ivan Allen College. Some of you may be inclined, you get the entrepreneurial bug and may participate in CreateX or many of the hackathons and think of entrepreneurial solutions that may solve some piece of the puzzle, And I just can't wait to see you grow intellectually, but also to see you grow in the sense of confidence about the kinds of solutions that you can help put in place. Some of you will join big companies. Companies are coming to us all the time. I talk to CEOs all the time. They want to know what it is they can do to do better. Some of you will create new companies. Some of you may become academics and scientists. Some of you may end up running for office or serving on on policy centers. Each of you, from whatever path you choose, and it will change, you'll go here and then there and then there, you will have the tools to make a difference. So I'm jazzed. I'm excited about what this means for Georgia Tech, and really, without trying to be exaggerate too much, for the rest of the world. It's awesome that you chose the Candida building to have this party. I don't think it gets any better, because this is a solution. Again, this is a solution to the puzzle. We're a small school in one city, in one country, in one place. This is one building, but it's a building that has really changed the way many of us already think about the built environment. We've tried to put so much design, interesting features in this building, and he's now helping us. So think about what your Candida building will be when you're in a position to crafting those solutions. Really, really interesting. I want to also thank our speaker, who you will hear about in a minute. And her book is Climate Optimism, right? That's the title. And you would say, well, that's a little bit of a contradictory title, Climate Optimism. Because every time you read about, oh my gosh, it's getting worse. Every time we had another UN convention, the data, the graph keeps going that way, and we have so much reason to be pessimistic. But I love that you're framing your work in terms of optimism, because optimism and hope, realistic, grounded on realism. This is well-informed optimism, is the first step towards finding solutions. Hope, confidence, a conviction that this is a problem that we can solve. This is the first step towards solutions. So no pressure, but there is a lot on you as new generation of leaders, and I can't wait to see this program grow. For all of you, the pioneers, to tell us what it is that we need to do better, because there's a lot at stake in this program. Hey, congratulations to all of you. Congratulations, Dean Lozier, for what you're leading here. This is really, really important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Cabrera. That was a beautiful address. Really kick us off on the right note. So next, I'd like to introduce College of Science Dean Susan Lozier. Dean Lozier is obviously Dean of College of Science, and she's a professor in the School of Earth and Atmospheric Science. So we're very proud to have her in our home department. Dean Lozier was the first woman to graduate from the University of Washington's Physical Oceanography doctoral program. And she's a physical oceanographer with an interest in large-scale ocean circulation, as well as understanding the physical controls on marine productivity. Before coming to Tech, she was faculty member and department chair at Duke University, and she served as the president of the Oceanographic Society, and also most recently and amazingly, the American Geophysical Union, while also serving as our own dean. She has done amazing things for all of us in College of Science. Most notably, I think to a lot of us, she has significantly raised the graduate student stipends. That has been a huge, huge success. So thank you so much for your leadership. Yes, round of applause for raising sound. So I'd like to now bring up and introduce for some remarks, Dean Lozier. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. The first highlight of this week for me was when I met the first environmental science major on this campus, and that was on Tuesday, and I see her here. And so that was quite a highlight for me. There was a Donuts with the Deans event. You see all the advantages you have when you're a dean. You get to go to have free donuts with students. And Zita, is that? Frida, thank you, was there. And she was like, I was meeting biology students and chemistry students, and she said, I'm an environmental science major. And I was like, that's so amazing. So the second highlight of my week is this launch. And I want to tell you why. So in 1969, I was a child growing up in a rather small town along the Ohio River. And that year in Cleveland, the Cuyahoga River caught fire. As a child, I was very confused about how a river could catch fire. But the people of Cleveland were not confused or not surprised because the Cuyahoga had caught fire for about 12 times over the past century. Now, the national outrage about this polluted river, and actually polluted rivers across the United States, that outrage really led to the birth of the environmental movement, and in large part really helped launch the Environmental Protection Agency in 1971. But that fire as a child was really a turning point for me personally. In effect, it brought about a loss of innocence. You see, my childhood was spent in woods and roaming fields and streams and in creeks. But as I moved into early adulthood, this fire and other events made me increasingly aware of the fragility of that natural environment and also increasingly concerned. So I was very impacted by that fire and other events, but I was also really advantaged by being impacted by the 20th century environmentalist, Rachel Carson. And I resonated with the concern that she expressed in her book, Silent Spring. She wrote, "Only within this moment of time, represented by the present century, has one species, man, acquired significant power to alter the nature of the world." Many years later, became an oceanographer, and I'm interested in the study of the ocean circulation and also in the stewardship of the ocean. In the late 1990s, I was dismayed when ocean surveys of the deep ocean came back, and those surveys revealed that in the deepest parts of the ocean were significant concentrations of anthropogenic carbon dioxide. So at that point, we understood that the ocean was a reservoir for the carbon dioxide that had been released by the burning of fossil fuels since the start of the Industrial Revolution. Now, human impact on rivers is one thing, but the human impact on oceans and even the deepest parts is a whole other scale. At that point, I understood that not a single corner of our earth was really untouched, really no depth was untouched. A 12th century French playwright named Lozier remarked, "It is not only what we do for which we are held responsible, but also for what we do not do." Seeing the impacts of humans on our environment and doing nothing is irresponsible. Seeing the impact of humans on our environment and doing something to ameliorate that impact is not only responsible, it's needed, and it's also noble. I am delighted that we are launching this new degree in environmental science. I look forward to meeting my second major and third major, and sometime soon the 100th major before too long. There's important work to do, and I have no doubt that Georgia Tech environmental science majors will be doing their part, their best to make the creeks, the fields, the woods, the rivers, and the oceans on this earth a refuge for the children of this generation and the next and the next. Congratulations to everyone who worked on this degree, and thanks to all the students who have signed up for this major. You have signed up to create a better future, so thank you.
Thank you, Dean Lozier. So as President Cabrera mentioned, Georgia Tech's institutional mission is to develop leaders who advance technology and improve human condition. The Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science is an interdisciplinary academic field that aims to do this by studying biological, chemical, and physical sciences to better understand the Earth's environment and make progress towards solving its solutions or challenges. The degree will not only focus on the challenges and pessimistic outlook that is often portrayed in the media, but also look towards the progress that has been made in helping out with some of these environmental challenges, in hopes that an optimistic viewpoint can help fuel further solutions. To give their perspective on this optimistic viewpoint, we would like to welcome and introduce our keynote speaker, Zahra Biabani. Zahra is a youth climate activist and entrepreneur that has been sharing action items and tidbits of hopeful news for our planet over 2 years to 60,000 followers on the social media platforms and email list. She is the CEO and founder of In the Loop, a circular economy software startup, the author of Climate Optimism, Climate Wins, and Creating Systematic Change Around the World, and a TED Talk speaker. So I'd like to now welcome our keynote speaker, Zahra, and thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, yes, you can hear me? Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Glass, for that kind introduction. 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, I was on my third change of majors in my college career. I remember sitting in the library feeling dissatisfied, disillusioned with my upcoming semester and the classes I was registered for. Maybe some of you guys can relate. So I went on to our university catalog and discovered a relatively new field of study, environmental sociology and earth science. Now, in the years prior, I had been a tireless advocate for planetary health after Hurricane Harvey hit my hometown of Houston, Texas, and my homeland of Pakistan was increasingly impacted by flooding and heat waves. But I had always thought that this kind of degree was for people and scientists that would be working in a lab, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I didn't pursue it. But on that day, I decided to take a step, and I made an appointment with an advisor. The next day I went in and she assured me that the field was open to more than just lab scientists. So that day I changed my major for the last time. The launch of this program at Georgia Tech is significant. The investment of resources and time for an interdisciplinary program dedicated to the environmental sciences shows the diversity of disciplines that touch and are touched by the climate. This program will produce doctors, educators, engineers, artists, biologists, and honestly, probably jobs that don't even exist yet, all of whom bring conversation and context of our changing climate into their work. I want to thank the dean, the professors, and you all for having me here today because I feel so honored. So before we get into the substance of this talk, I want to pose a question. What emotions are driving your commitment to be here and to be part of this incredible program? Is it the fear, the worry that if you don't step up and dedicate your professional life to this planet, that we will be on a fast track to planetary destruction? Or is it perhaps anger at the systems and the people in power that have failed to act, knowing the gravity of the crisis? Or maybe it's a deep-seated love and respect for our shared home and a desire to see the wonder of our planet preserved for future generations. So I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, what emotions are driving you? You can take a minute to think about it, turn to someone next to you. Hopefully you'll make a new friend. And when you're done, look forward. Awesome. That was a concerted effort there. Very good. So I hope you had some generative discussions. For me, my emotions driving my work are a combination of the three. So love, fear, and anger, which oscillate in importance depending on the time and what's happening in the news. But the most prevailing emotion, as you probably would have guessed, for me is hope and optimism. Hope that if I take action, banded together with groups of passionate individuals, we can change the trajectory of our planet's future because we are worth fighting for, and so is our planet. So I'm going to start by giving you some advice that I wish I knew 3 years ago, and hope that it will ground you in your journey in this program or at any other programs you decide to explore. So one, you will encounter difficult classes. For me, that was geochemistry, but for you, that might be environmental economics or policy or something else. And just because you might struggle with the class content doesn't mean you will not succeed in your chosen career path. 1C, or even worse, will not affect your life or your ability to help our planet. 2, you will engage with frustrating people. Those who don't think climate change is as big of a deal as it is, or who choose to pursue a career that is more profitable than helpful to the world. But regardless of anyone's career choice, anyone can become a climate activist. So you in this program should do what you can to reach those who seem unreachable. We need everyone on board. You will also encounter pivotal moments, experiences that transform your perspective, push you out of your comfort zone, and shape the professional you become when you step outside of the classroom. Talking to people who are most impacted by the effects of climate change, doing field work, and applying what you've learned in the classroom. Embrace these moments with grace and humility, because it's in these moments that you will often find the deepest clarity and growth. And perhaps most significantly, you will, on a regular basis, be confronted with the brutal reality of the climate crisis. Your friends might see stories of raging wildfires in the Northeast and Hawaii and be able to close out of social media apps. But you'll be continuously immersed in those problems, analyzing the root causes of them, their impacts on people, and potential solutions. At times, this might put you in a state of disillusionment where you want to throw in the towel and switch majors for the fourth time. But that's natural, and I encourage you to keep on going. Just as a future physician doesn't give up studying medicine because illness and diseases exist, you should not give up pursuing a career in this field because the challenges seem insurmountable. Although our window to act is narrowing, the portal of opportunities is expanding. And by this portal of opportunities, I don't mean those deep tech solutions like drawing down carbon from the atmosphere or producing steel without any carbon, but also the innovations in legal activism that give climate defenders more rights in courts, and the psychology behind communication strategies that build bipartisan bridges. Yes, we are on a timeline that is getting shorter and shorter, but all it takes is a look at the past few decades to see how far we have come via collaboration and grassroots organizing. I found this source of hope in the pandemic. Now, that's not something most people say, but let me explain. In 2020, I was rounding out my junior year, and I was taking history of the Earth from my bed because of the pandemic. Learning about the Great Oxygenation event from my childhood bedroom was not exciting at all, and it started to weigh on me, much like it did for many of you. I didn't want to rot in the feelings of stagnancy and hopelessness that I was feeling. So I decided to take on this exercise of finding positive or encouraging climate news stories. So I began researching and eventually sharing those with my friends in my extended network. Soon after, this turned into a practice that thousands of people were coming to each Friday, looking for a source of hope and encouragement to keep going in their work. And after some time, I began to identify patterns in these positive stories, what I call the most promising systemic solutions to this systemic crisis. These solutions have been accumulating momentum and validation, but less attention than they deserve. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to walk you through some of these solution areas with the goal that they can imbue you with a sense of hope for our shared home. Wind and solar plants have become 70% and 89% respectively cheaper in the last decade. Over 50 cities and subnational governments have endorsed a treaty to phase out the use of fossil fuels. Government funding for environmental justice efforts has never been so high. More than 1,500 institutions institutions with a combined $40 trillion in assets under management have committed to divest from fossil fuels. 181 CEOs of America's biggest corporations overturned a 22-year-old policy saying that the corporation's purpose was to maximize shareholder value and amended it to include environmental imperatives. For the first time since 2008, a majority of Americans value environmental protection over economic growth. In the past couple of years, hundreds of thousands of acres of land have been given back to indigenous groups around the world who are the best stewards of our planet. In at least 7 countries, young people as young as 5 years old have successfully taken their governments or big corporations to court, alleging that they are failing to protect our youth. You might have heard of a recent successful example in Montana. And rights of nature legislation, which protects ecosystems with similar rights than a citizen of a country, have been passed in at least 30 local governments within the US, including some of the most conservative places in the country, as well as 24 countries around the world. Now, I know I just rambled off a laundry list, but there are more to dive into. And notice that many of these don't track with what you see on the news because they have been an accumulation of decades of hard work of activists and grassroots movements that have been putting in hours despite failure after failure. So whichever movement you decide to involve yourself in, whatever it touches, I promise that there will be failures, but there will be small successes. And it's not just about the news stories, science, or data, although they are crucial in giving us a sense of hope. The theory of change rooted in optimism is based both on these systemic solutions and the psychology behind hope. We can have hope because we have evidence of progress, but also because it's really our only choice. If we are unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel, we will be disincentivized to walk, let alone run towards it, which we all know is what we need right now. In the midst of the pandemic, the World Health Organization emphasized the importance of ingesting positive news for our mental and emotional well-being. And in the midst of this planetary crisis, psychologists are likewise emphasizing the imperative of maintaining a hopeful outlook. Easier said than done. As you commit your studies and career to mitigating climate change, remember that you must protect your health and emotional well-being in order to serve a greater purpose. And you also must maintain empathy around the human aspect of environmental challenges. For the farmers facing unprecedented rain patterns, to coastal communities battling rising sea levels, it's about them too. We must have hope that inequalities and injustices are not set in stone, that the countries that have contributed the least to climate change, but are getting impacted the most by climate change, are not destined to be displaced from their homes. If we work on the technologies and run for the positions in power that are responsible for ensuring a better future, we can play a role that we have the privilege to take on. Because all of us here today are in a position of privilege and responsibility. And with the knowledge you gain here, you have the power to advocate, innovate, and lead. And so in whichever field you pursue, whether it's policy, academia, tech, or the arts, remember that the environment is an overarching theme. The choices we make in every domain, from the way we design our buildings like this, to the politicians we vote for, directly or indirectly impact the planet. And here at the Georgia Tech, you're environmentalists, not just students. You are stewards of the earth and keepers of its future. So in a world that sometimes seems consumed by doom and gloom, you are the beacons of hope. And the legacy that you leave behind, that you start here, will shape a future that's not just sustainable, but inclusive and thriving. And with the tools and knowledge from this incredible institution, and the fire and passion in your heart, and the guiding light of hope, there's no challenge that is insurmountable. So thank you for letting me be a small part of this monumental step in your lives.
Thank you so much, Zahra, for giving us that message that I know is particularly refreshing after a long first week of the semester. So there are a couple things that we have left to do before we just have some time to mingle together. I'm going to allow from some questions for Zahra, and then we have a couple of student groups connected to environmental science and environmental engineering that we want to introduce, especially for those of you who are new to Georgia Tech. And then if you are an undergraduate student, you should have a swag bag. And if you didn't get one when you came in, please go ahead and pick one up after we wrap up in this room. And inside the swag bag is Zahra's latest book, Climate Optimism, and she'll be able to sign them in the back of the room when we wrap up. So